We are live and we are back with Bob from Poly. Can you please introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, my name is Bob Knauf from Poly, and I am a longtime employee here. I've been here for about 25 years. So I first started in video conferencing. I had a full head of hair. And I was about 50 pounds lighter, David. And luckily, I got to watch myself for the past 25 years just go through a change into a
It's
video conferencing person.
it's amazing how we change. I should show you a picture of me from 2 years ago. You wouldn't recognize it. Uh, Now I know a lot has been going on with Poly. I mean, Poly is one of those companies that's almost synonymous with video. And this year we finally adopted video the way we've always said we're going to. So there's so much we can talk about. But I thought we'd start one thing that's it's actually come up a lot today, and it's been coming up a lot in conversations, is healthcare. Everyone wants to
Yeah.
do telemedicine. Everyone wants to do video with healthcare. You guys must be involved in so many projects with so many companies. Why don't you give me a little bit of what's happening with video and healthcare in these times?
Well, it is and has been just the busiest I've ever been with customer meetings, discussions with internal folks, you name it. And with engineering, and everyone's involved. Just everyone wants to make this bigger and better, and just better for the healthcare professionals, better for the patients. It's insane. And I knew we were at a tipping point a few months ago when my wife had to go to the our general practitioner, and she had to have uh, her consultation via FaceTime. I said, "Well, this is it. We're now in the world of telemedicine. Everyone's doing it. If this if it affects us at home here." So, but what we have been seeing is, starting back in February when the pandemic really hit the shores of the U.S. and in other parts of the world, it started just a tad bit earlier. We saw an immediate need for doctors and healthcare professionals to be able to isolate patients and be able to check on patients remotely. That was one of the very first things we saw, because hospital systems were inundated by really bad COVID cases, and they had a lack of PPE early on, and they wanted to be able to view the patients and keep them in isolation, but still be able to check on them. So you saw carts being rolled in with video systems and high powered cameras, and so the doctors could sit outside the rooms or in a central viewing location and call into various patient rooms, which was pretty awesome. But then all of a sudden it became, all right, we need to be able to communicate to our nurses, our nurse practitioners, our doctors who are inside the rooms over audio. So what do we do there? And so we saw headsets being purchased for that specific need, having the headsets over the PPE equipment, make sure it sounds good, make sure everyone can understand each other. And then all of a sudden, you have all these other needs starting to pop up. You have like telepsychiatry, you have uh, sorts of pediatric uh, specialties that have to be seeing patients, and hospital systems were the hospital systems that were already doing telemedicine. They're like, well, yeah, we knew about this all along, and that's why they were preparing for this. But there were a lot of people caught with their doctor jackets off, literally, because they were like, what do we do? So they were reaching out to a lot of the great video as a service providers that are out there, tons of hardware manufacturers, trying to figure out, okay, what do we do? And we kept letting folks know, do not rush into anything. I mean, this was already on your 5-year, 2-year plan, 4-year plan, whatever it might have been. They were thinking telemedicine, but just go ahead and plan out the entire length of your project. Don't rush into something, and try to do it right from the very beginning. And you had folks that were already planning. You had like in University of Maryland, for example, in Baltimore, they have a mobile RV that they bring around to communities and do remote telemedicine to bring those specialty doctors and the specialists out to the communities and make it easier for the community members. Because the one thing, everyone that was going into the hospitals and were they had to be assumed they had COVID, and everyone had to get tested and so forth. So it was so difficult for folks to go to the hospital and so time consuming. So video really played a huge role early on, and it continues to play an important role every day.
Yeah, I mentioned this earlier today. I'm finding that, and I'm really pleased to see that telemedicine isn't being treated as oh, okay, if we have to, we'll use this. It's the preferred choice. Well, particularly in today's circumstances, preferred choice. The doctors they don't want me coming to the office because I might,
Right.
sit in the lobby and get sick. I told this earlier today, but I got a bum shoulder from years ago, and every few years I got to go to the doctor, and she gives me some exercises and some Advils and stuff, and it was bothering me again. And when I made the telemedicine appointment, I thought it was going to be like, look, we really need you to come in unless you're really scared you could do telemedicine. But she was like, we're going to do this on telemedicine. If you want to come in, you're going to have to wait 2 months because I'm only having a few people in every day. And if you want to do telemedicine, you could do it tomorrow. I was like, tomorrow?
Yeah.
I never had a tomorrow doctor before. And I saw her tomorrow and looked at my shoulder and explained moving it this way and that way and everything. And she did the normal thing. And I'm like, this wasn't second choice. This is preferred. This is the way I'm doing it for now on. Unless she says, David, I got to see you come in. It's just always going to be telemedicine. And I think it's sad that it took this for us to realize. But well, Polly, we've been saying it for years. It's the better way.
Right.
To
Yeah.
shift to a quick question about the gear, though. I've
Yeah.
always considered headsets a very personal thing because you wear them. They're like clothing. There is no, people say, what headset do you recommend? And I say, personal preference. They say, well, do you recommend wired or wireless? Some people love wired, some people love wireless. Do you recommend over
Right.
the ears or the inside the ears or the behind the head or the top of the head or da da? It's like asking me what kind of shirt to recommend. What are you comfortable in? And I think that's why Poly has a huge line of different headsets. But
Right.
when it comes to telemedicine, do you have products that are like, if you're into telemedicine, you should be using these are our telemedicine products, or is it still just personal preference, whichever headset you like the most?
Well, from a headset perspective, it's certain headsets. I just happen to not planned whatsoever, but I happen to have a UC 52 or 5200 UC headset right here. This just goes over your ear. But what's nice about this, it also goes over can go easily over your PPE equipment, and it's very small and it doesn't. And honestly, if you're working with a patient, they can barely even see the headset, and it's not going to be obtrusive to anyone. And it's very comfortable to wear all day. There's even little earbuds that we have that you can wear. So there's a lot of, and so you're talking about personal preferences. I have 3 headsets on my desk because sometimes I want to have a different experience, but that's just me. And but for but for the headsets, absolutely wireless is the way to go. And you'll see a lot of healthcare professionals just using one ear muff, or they'll use the in-ear system just so they can keep one ear open in order to talk to their other healthcare professionals when they're not speaking to the person on the far side, or if they're talking to the talking to the patient. Um, Either you're going to be you might have a healthcare professional working with the patient here on this side and talking to a specialist doctor on the far side. So you want to make sure you're able to hear that patient and hear the doctor on the far side. And it might be a private conversation. So you have the headset on, all sorts of different things. If it's a telepsychiatry appointment, you absolutely positively want to have, and it's just a one-on-one type of conversation, you absolutely want to have the best headset you can. You want to block out all unwanted noise that could be in distractions from around you. You want to make sure the technology can do that. That's what's so cool about the Poly headsets, is that we have noise block technology, acoustic fence technology that will block out the crazy sounds that we can get into a home office, be it, a dog barking and stuff like that. So
No, I
again,
wasn't thinking about
so many ways.
telepsychiatry. That's really important. I think
Oh yeah.
if you were already in therapy and having struggles, and then 2020 hits. I mean, if you were feeling good, 2020 hit you hard, and it's on top of that, hey, guess what? You're not allowed to go see your therapist when you need to see your therapist the most. Oh,
Right.
so
And if it's Yeah, and if there's any blips at all in the technology, it literally would drive the person crazy on the far site because you want to make sure that it's like having like you and I are chatting right now. It feels like we're sitting right across the table from one another. You want to make sure you can provide that experience, be it from your audio gear to the video gear, one way or another. It has to be in a same room experience for them when you're having those patient encounters.
Yeah, with therapy, you don't want any misunderstandings, right? Because you'll say, "Therapist, I want to talk to you. I have another problem," and he'll say, "You have a mother problem?"
Exactly, exactly. You
Can
want to
I?
make sure you understand everything.
Thank you, thank you. I'll be here all week.
Make
So
sure you
the
tip your waiters and waitresses.
exactly. So the other big area, I mean, everyone's using
Yeah,
video for everything, but two of the big things before the pandemic, and even bigger, were healthcare and education. And now we're
yeah,
all trying to figure out how to go back to school. A lot of us are doing it remotely. I'm getting calls on the regular from my cousin who's a teacher, always trying to because they keep switching her from different solutions. You could use this one, you could use that one. How do I make a call? How do I mute my students? There's a lot going on, and I'm sure that at Poly, again, being kind of synonymous with video for the last 20 years, you must be seeing all kinds of crazy new things going on in education. So, anything to share from your education customers?
absolutely nothing. We have nothing going on. I'm absolutely kidding. Totally kidding. There's been so many cool things happening in education. Again, a lot of us video professionals have known about what the power could be for many, many years, but now we're seeing it in action. The same thing holds true. A lot of schools had some sort of plan for distance education, but it took COVID and this pandemic to really be the light the fire to get things going as quickly as possible for them. So what we're seeing in the kind of this new normal, and this is the blended teaching approach. Some people call hybrid, blended. It's all the same thing where you might have teachers in a classroom, you might have teachers at home, you might have students at home, you might have students in their dorm rooms, you might have students it, all in class. You never know where they're going to be, but you have to be flexible. You have to be flexible to be able to change on a dime. I mean, if you look at even the state of Georgia, for example, and how many schools opened up a few weeks back and almost immediately had to slow down their openings because so many of the kids got and the teachers started getting COVID. So schools are really adapting quite well and quite fast at being flexible. So what we recommend and what we're seeing schools do is they're making the video system, be it a all-in-one video conferencing device, or maybe it's just a camera, a USB camera device, like say with a Poly USB Studio, for example, that plugs into your laptop. So you can use any video as a service provider if that's the route you want to go. But you have a really cool HD camera, powerful audio, blah, blah, blah. But it is like it sits in the classroom like it's a student itself. So the student on the far side, when they're calling into their video classroom, they're looking at the teacher just as if they were looking at the teacher if they're sitting in the class, which is awesome. And one nice thing about the teacher, the technology for camera tracking and camera technologists in general has come a long way in the past few years. And for Poly, we have taken leaps and bounds with the ability for cameras to just follow the participants around the room without having to speak, without having to have your full eyes, nose, and mouth. You can even be wearing a mask and be talking to the far side in case you have if the instructor or the teacher's in one room with a few students, everyone's going to be masked up. You need to make sure your camera is also following you around. Because what we heard immediately, so we started interviewing teachers back really in March, right when things where kids were being sent home and schools were closing, trying to figure out what's going on with the students, what's going on with the teachers, what's going on in their minds, where are the pain points. And one of the biggest pain points was the teachers were like, we don't mind video, but we hate being stuck behind the desk. Because I mean, if they're stuck behind the desk, they can't put any teaching aids up on the wall, they can't have a whiteboard or anything like that. So we were lucky enough to have technology in our cameras that would be able to track you around the room as you're moving about, even in tighter spaces. And schools, as I mentioned, school districts are purchasing the smaller cameras that can do the tracking, or they're purchasing the USB studios, whatever it might be, or they're purchasing even the all-in-one video systems, and trying to get a hybrid approach. What's really awesome is they can manage these devices. So even if the instructor, the teacher has to bring these devices to home, and it always scares IT professionals if I have to send devices home with my employer or my staff. How do I actually make sure they have the right software load if it's working? Well, the cool thing is they can manage all this device online through a single portal. So they can rest assured that if something does go wrong at the teacher's home, they're still able to access it and see what might be an issue if there are any issues.
Yeah, I think that stuff's crucial because without it, what you have is the teacher, when the teacher's in class, the teacher is focused on teaching. And when the
Right.
teacher's doing remote, the teacher is focused on video technology. And we don't want that. I know my cousin does not want that. She just wants to teach. All she wants to
Exactly.
do is to teach these kids and have them learn. And the more time she spends mastering video technology is less time she's spending on her lesson plans. So if she has to learn how to control cameras to follow her around the room, she will not be happy about that. And if you guys, your cameras just magically, I don't need to know how it works. Magic is good for me. Follows her around the room so her students get get the view they need. Um, then she could just teach, and
Yep.
that's what she needs.
As I like to say, we're the calm in the chaos. We're trying to give you the calm that's in the chaos of your everyday teaching remotely, and from headsets to the video systems, we'll make your experience better.
Yeah, and that kind of reassurance is definitely needed now. I mean, the whole world is scary, and to be scared about having to use video to teach your students, they don't need that fear as well. Let's make something easy for them. So let's take care of our
Y-
teachers, take care of the auto
Absolutely,
framing, take care of the provisioning, all that other stuff, and let them just click start and teach their students.
absolutely.
Bob, thank you so much. This was a great chat. We're gonna have to do this again. You are absolutely
Yeah.
awesome at this. I had a great time,
All right, thanks, David.
and thanks
Take
to
care.
everyone
Have a
at
good rest
Poly.
of the day. You bet.